In his body of work, from the deeply resonant Pariyerum Perumal to the evocative Karnan to his latest Maamannan, Selvaraj is a filmmaker who has consistently used cinema as a medium to release the weight of personal trauma. Vaazhai, the film he initially wanted to make his directorial debut with, is rooted in an intensely personal story, an unhealed wound that shaped up who he is today. Through his films, he has explored the deep scars that caused oppression and systematic violence that left on those who endure it, often drawing from his own life for authenticity. The films of Selvaraj resonate with the raw power of nature. If we talk about Karnan, there is Dhanush, whose path through an oppression is seared by the unforgiving sun, framed by flickering flames. In Pariyerum Perumal and Maamannan, we have animal spirits who seem to dictate the fates of the characters in the narratives. But it is Vaazhai where Selvaraj truly immerses us in the atmosphere. From the opening scene where a young Sivananda desperately searches for something, his breathless shouts echoing through the fields, we are instantly pulled into a world that feels both intimate and universal. The simplicity of the plot on paper belies the depth of Selvaraj's cinematic craft. His storytelling elevates the film into something that is far greater than its premise, and the exploration of lost childhood, of innocence, and the weight of systematic oppression is what makes the film so appealing. The film centers around Sivananda, with nearly 90% of the story unfolding through his eyes. He lives in a rural village with his sister Vembo and his mother. Our first glimpse of him shows a vulnerable, frightened child waking from a nightmare and trembling in fear. While most kids dread Monday mornings and return to school, Sivananda's anxiety centers on Friday nights. The weekend does not bring rest. It means toiling at the plantation, carrying heavy loads of plantains alongside the other villagers. In fact, while the audience might be enjoying a weekend escape through this film, the character on screen feels trapped by it, turning the usual weekend vibe on its head into something that is unexpected and personal. For Sivananda, school is his sanctuary. It's the only place where he can experience the childhood that should be every child's right. He thrives in his studies and relishes moments of innocent fun with his friend Sekar, whether they are at school, in the neighborhood, or even in the fields. At school, he also finds himself drawn to a teacher who fascinates him. She represents a world far removed from the struggles that he faces daily, a world that is seemingly unaware of the burdens children like him bear. Sivananda's relationship with his teacher is another delicate thread in this narrative. There is an inherent purity in how he views her, how he looks at her. A blend of admiration and affection is there, but it is always framed within the context of her role as his teacher. This relationship, like many in this film Vaazhai, is steeped in pain yet wrapped in layers of unspoken love and care. One of the film's most powerful scenes shows him joyfully dancing at a funeral. His happiness comes not from any celebration of death, but the reprieve that it brings from working in the plantation. This moment encapsulates the tragic irony of his existence, where even the briefest moments of joy are tied to sorrow. Selvaraj structures Vaazhai in a cyclical narrative, reflecting the unchanging nature of Sivananda's struggle. In the first half, he skips his plantation duties to visit a rice mill, leading to the loss of his cow and the subsequent humiliation of his family. In the second half, a similar sequence plays out when he chooses to attend a dance practice, once again abandoning his work. In both instances, we see how a young boy, simply trying to follow his heart, is made to feel guilty for prioritizing his own happiness. The film's climax stands as one of the most touching and brilliantly crafted moments in Selvaraj's work. Sivananda, physically drained and emotionally shattered, finds himself unable to properly grieve his loved ones, as hunger bites at him more fiercely than his sorrow. Through the camera's compassionate lens, we follow his staggering steps across a desolate landscape, where the ache of starvation blurs his capacity to mourn. In a haunting scene, his mother discovers him eating amidst the ruin, leaving us with a heavy silence, a reminder of the deep, lasting wounds inflicted by social injustice. In these moments, Vaazhai forces us to confront the brutal reality that happiness comes at a steep price, especially for those who are born into systematic oppression. Selvaraj's use of cinematic tools is heightening the overall emotional impact of this film, crafting a world where innocence is actually a luxury that only few can afford. The expansive plantation fields in the film are not just scenery, they loom over the villagers' lives, imposing a constant silent pressure. The people are bound to these fields. Their existence is tied to the very crop they harvest. Young Sivananda seems to float through the rows of plants, caught in the pull of the land that both nurtures and traps him, a silent witness to the weight of his own life. Vaazhai unfolds with a rare precision that modern mainstream cinema seldom achieves. Every frame is crafted with care and every shot is placed like a verse in a flowing poem. Selvaraj transports us into a world where humans, birds, animals coexist in harmony, gently reminding us for a fragile balance that greed can destroy. As the film draws to a closure, it becomes very clear that Vaazhai is not just about Sivananda's personal story, but about the generational trauma that comes from living within a system that exploits and dehumanizes those who are vulnerable. The banana plant that gives the film its name serves as a metaphor for this cycle of exploitation. Known for its ability to regenerate, the plant symbolizes both life and prosperity. Yet in Vaazhai, it becomes a symbol of oppression as its bounty sustains a system that crushes the very people who depend on it. At its core, Vaazhai is Selvaraj's own way of grappling with his survivor's guilt. Inspired by true events, the film doesn't shy away from its heavy origins. As the credits roll, we are confronted with haunting news clippings that recount the tragic loss of 20 lives, grounding the film's emotional depth in a harsh reality. It's a story that is born from deep pain but also has a quest of healing. In sharing such an intimate journey, Selvaraj touches upon something that is universal, which is the incredible strength of the human spirit even when faced with overwhelming sorrow. With this film, Selvaraj leaves us with a lump in our throat and a deep sense of empathy for those who just are left behind and their stories remain unheard. In Sivananda's final moments, we are reminded of the cost of survival, both for the boy on the screen and the filmmaker behind the camera. Let us know your thoughts about Vaazhai in the comments. Don't forget to share this video, subscribe to Long Live Cinema, and we will see you soon.